Alex Thomas, happy to have you, my man.
Hey man, I'm happy to be here. I've heard all about you. I've seen. I have some peers and some friends that have been on your show, The Art of Dialogue. I like that name, bro. That takes it like up a notch. This ain't just the average, you know, just a bunch of people talking a bunch of random mess. Like this is the art of dialogue. I love that because that's what we about to do. We about to talk like for real, for real.
You already know we gotta get into it, man. I mean, you was a part of so many good projects, man. I got so much I want to ask you about. I had no idea you was a writer for the Fresh Prince.
Yeah, man. Well, shout out to Will Smith. It's crazy to say like this guy found me. You know what I mean? But I always got to give him praise because that was my first big break in stand up and in this entertainment business. To be real with you, let's say this was July 2nd, 1992. I was a broke stand up comic. I had $11 in my pocket, caught the bus to the Laugh Factory up in Hollywood, sat in a 13-hour line just to go up and do 3 minutes on amateur night. I hadn't even been doing comedy 6 months. I was supposed to go up and do 3 minutes that night. I didn't even have 3 minutes of jokes. And I killed my little 2 minutes. And lo and behold, Will Smith was sitting in the front row of the Laugh Factory that night. And I got off stage. He was like, yo, man, you real funny, man. My name is, I was like, I know who the hell you are. You Will Smith. He goes, yeah, man, well, I got this brand new TV show. And I'm like, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I watch it every week. The show had been on 2 years at that time. He was like, well, let me ask you a question, man. He goes, do you write? And I'm like, do you have a pen? He was like, you think you can come down and help us with some funny stuff like what I saw on stage tonight? I was like, hold on, let me check my schedule. Yes, I'm available. He was like, when do you think you can come down? I'm like, now? Can I get a ride with you? Yeah, I caught the bus to this thing. You know what I mean? And literally the next day, I was at NBC in Burbank on the set of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And that was the beginning of the rest of my life. You know what I mean? I had no idea that, the magnitude of what that would have led to. But when I tell you, I'm like the epitome of being in the right place at the right time. And I took the bull by the horns, man, and he gave me that shot. He gave me that opportunity, and the rest was history, man.
How was that like though? You being on set and writing for the show.
The experience was incredible. And there's so many different things when I say incredible, like the relationships I got out of that show. All the people you got to remember on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, there was always like cameos and people that would drop by, whether it was Michael Jordan, whether it was Tyra Banks, whether it was Chris Rock, whether it was Jada Pinkett back in the day. I mean, literally the who's who of Black Hollywood and other superstars would fall through the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Um, as far as the writing goes, man, I was just a dude with no experience. You know what I mean? I can't lie to you. The question I get all the time is like, did you go to writing school? Did you go to writing class? Absolutely not. I was just in the right place at the right time. You got to understand, a lot of those dudes that were on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, those were some guys that wrote some of the biggest TV shows of all time. Those dudes that I was in that room with, they wrote shows like Happy Days and Home Improvement and the Dick Van Dyke Show and Mork and Mindy and Happy Days. You're like, these are some serious writers, but there weren't too many people that looked like me, that looked like us. And I was kind of like Will's young voice. How would a young brother, because we just happen to be the same age, we're both Libras, and we just hit it off immediately. But I will say this, Will was always loyal to his family and the homies that he grew up with because all his boys had some type of job on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. When I tell you, I was the honorary Philly dude on that show all those years because I'm straight born and raised South Central LA. You know what I mean? I'm an LA dude. I was the only LA dude on that set all those years. But it was a mutual respect. We all got along and the show ended up being iconic.
What was the characters you was writing for?
Well, yeah, it started off with just, me kind of being like Will's personal joke writer. You know what I mean? And nothing against, again, those guys that wrote hit TV shows over the years, right? But as stand-up comedians, a lot of times, if you put me in a room with 5 comedians, we all feel like we can up one each other. You know what I mean? Oh, you thought that was funny. I got a line that's even funnier. You know what I mean? So a lot of times what I had to learn was structure. That's one thing those dudes had down. They knew how to write a joke and write a TV show, right? Where I came in was the word is punching up. Punching up means you could be a dude that wrote 55 TV shows, right? And you wrote a line that was funny, right? We all chuckled. I take that line and take it from a chuckle to you falling out your seat and spitting the water out your mouth. It's like the difference between, I don't know how old you are, but it'd be like, nothing against them, but it's like watching a white comedy show or watching a comedian perform on Jay Leno or Jimmy Fallon, but then you come to a black night. You come to a Def Comedy Jam, Comic View, Chocolate Sunday. Our culture is completely different. What we think is funny sometimes and not what they think is funny, and vice versa. So by me coming onto the show, it was almost like me bringing a new energy, a new life, and taking those jokes a lot of times from here to here. You know what I mean? So when a lot of people find out that I was a writer on the show, something I get a lot over the years, they be like, so I knew it. You the reason Will Smith's so funny. And I'm like, no, I can't take that credit, right? You got to look at me like you look at Phil Jackson, right? Phil Jackson got lucky to coach two of the greatest players of all time. Michael Jordan first with the Bulls, and then Kobe Bryant with the Lakers, right? Phil's not the dude out there dunking. Phil's not the dude out there getting the triple-double, but he did run in those plays. It was a team effort. You get what I'm saying? And I had to earn my respect there. And as the years, I worked on the last 4 seasons of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, I earned that respect of, that's a funny dude. He's a big part of this championship team. And it helped, I like to say it helped take the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air to another level along with the other guys that I respect on the team. You know what I mean? But it was great for me because the learning experience was out of this world, man. You couldn't pay for the learning experience I got being around an incredible dude like Will Smith every single day for 4 years.
You being a writer for the show, right? Did you know about the tension between Will and Jenny Herbert?
So you ready for this? When I get that question all the time, it's a real simple answer. I never met the dark-skinned Aunt Viv. I literally started working the week she left the show. So the only Aunt Viv I knew was Daphne Maxwell Reid. So I caught the end. I wasn't there at the beginning of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So I never really knew about that until later on when they put me up on it. You know what I'm saying? So never dealt with that. But it was I missed them too, man, because we really became like a family. Like literally to this day, I'm friends with everybody in Will's family. Like we did that show. Our last episode was 97. If Will's mother walked in here right now, she'd be like, Alex, his sister Ellen, his brother Harry. Like I literally became family. Charlie Mack, all the dudes, I give them all shout outs. Omar, Benny, all the dudes. Rest in peace, Tron. There was so many people on that show that we just became family. It wasn't like we were just on set friends. Anytime Will had a party at the house, birthdays, you know what I mean? Will's the guy that got me into golf. You know what I'm saying? And it's a lot, man. So shout out to that family.
And you was in Don't Be a Menace too, another classic.
Don't Be a Menace. From what I'm hearing, it's one of the greatest hood classics of all time. I've been real fortunate, Art, to be a huge part of this culture, man. I didn't really realize it until I look back and people kind of bring it up to me. They're like, dude, it wasn't like you had the biggest roles in all these TV shows and all these movies and all these moments, Alex, but you've been a part of some iconic stuff. And I had to sit back and go, wow, I guess that is right. Like there's not too many people on the planet, black, white, whatever you are, that didn't see Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. Not only was that was my first movie that I was in, it was one of the first movies that I wrote on also. So shout out to the whole Wayans family. Keenan Ivory Wayans, who is not only is an icon, he's like a second father to me. They've always called me like the honorary Wayan, because pretty much, literally, and I'm not exaggerating, anything the Wayans brothers did these last 30 years, I was either in it, on it, a part of it, writing, stand up, guest spots. I was just always there, and the whole family employed me. From Sean and Marlon to working with Damon Wayans on. Damon was one of the first superstar comedians that took me out on the road as a young comic in the 90s. You got to understand, I was used to doing, 300-seat comedy clubs. It didn't get any bigger than Damon Wayans at one time. You know what I mean? You could ask Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, and Kevin Hart. You can ask all of them. Damon Wayans was one of the coldest comedians ever. And he was selling out 3,500 seaters, 5,000 seaters in the early 90s. And he brought me, a young Alex Thomas, to go out on the road and do what I do. So again, right place at the right time. And they always looked out for me. So the Wayans family, Don't Be a Menace. It was huge. Started my career, first movie. It was great, man. I can't go anywhere in the world. Somebody not say $5, Buster. They just be throwing out my lines and stuff. So yeah. Me, one thing about me, every TV show, every movie you've ever seen me on, ad-libbing is in my DNA. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's the exact line depending on who I'm bouncing it off. And a lot of times as a comedian, there's not a comedian on the planet that doesn't ad-lib every once in a while because we just feel it. It's what we do. But I want to say $5, Buster. I think that was for me. Yeah, that was me talking mess, being real LA. So,
Did y'all get any backlash when y'all did that movie? Was anybody mad at the parodies?
not at all, because to be honest with you, in the white world, they had been doing it for years. It just happened to be a couple of movies that were huge, that we all were huge fans of. And back in the day, for the young people, you can Google this: Airplanes, Naked Guns, Leslie Nielsen, History of the World. Back in the day, all those parody type movies, it had never been done in the urban world, in the black world. And we were that young hip hop culture at that time. So you put all of our comedy minds together, again, shout out to Sean and Marlon. It was their thing. And they brought a bunch of young comics that they liked. And they learned from their big brothers, right? So Sean and Marlon's big brothers, as the world knows, Keenan Ivory Wayans, Damon Wayans. So 15, 20 years before us, there was the Black Pack. I don't know if you know about the Black Pack. The Black Pack was Robert Townsend, Eddie Murphy, Paul Mooney, Keenan Ivory Wayans, like those guys, Arsenio Hall. They were the Black Pack. We were them 15, 20 years after them. A bunch of talented young brothers that got along, that were funny, and we had two mentors that were like, yo, we need that fresh, new, funny for this generation. And the Wayans brothers reached out to me, one of my best friends, Daryl Heath, Chris Spencer, Sully McCullough. It was a whole lot of us young cats that it was almost like the equivalent of rappers, or like what Jay-Z did with Rockefeller. And he got a bunch of dope young energy and built that empire, whether it was when he brought on Kanye, when he brought on Dipset, when he brought on Freeway and Beanie Siegel and Memphis Bleek. It was that kind of situation, but we did it in the comedy world. So, if that makes any sense.
Makes a lot of sense. What are some of the jokes you wrote in that movie?
Oh my God. Of course you remember when we jumped that fool in. His name is Ray. He's in the gang. If you don't like it, you got to get out the gang. What? Get out the... That's iconic. Put it this way. I did 38 cities doing stand-up this year. I throw that in the top of my show every city I go. And if there's black people, you would think that was a platinum song, bro. When I do that, they go crazy. Like, it still trips me out to this day that people remember my lines and things that I've said over the years, and it like 30 years later they still remember it, and it's a good feeling because it's like a great song, right? I don't care how many times you hear "Beat It." I don't care if you a thug, if you a gangster, if you hear "Can't Touch This." If you know the words, you remember what you were doing. You remember before you were a gangster, you were doing them dances. You were certain things stick with you forever. I was that same way. How I remember lines that George Jefferson said on the Jeffersons. I remember lines that Roger and Rerun said. I remember lines that, Arnold and Willis said on different shows. So it's crazy now I'm that guy that people come up to me and be like, man, when I used to watch the Jamie Foxx show, or when I watch Players Club, or when I watch, people still remember. So it makes you feel good. I mean, somebody was listening to what you had to say.
You also was in Bounce, underrated movie, man.
That's a hood classic also, Beps. Black women come up to me every city I go to. Sometimes I forget all about Baps. And oh, don't forget about Baps. You was funny as hell in Baps. And they immediately go to my line. Don't stop. Get it, get it. Get it, get it. They instantly. And I thought about it. I was like, damn, I've been real fortunate. I did 2 movies with Halle Berry. Baps and Why the Fools Fall in Love. I think they were like a year or 2 apart. I think we did those movies in like 95, 96, 97. But yeah, shout out to Halle Berry. She is super, super cool. Yeah, man, I've had an amazing journey, bro.
How was it shooting Bounce?
Again, it was great because a lot of people don't remember Robert Townsend directed that. Another one of my comedy idols. And it was fun. It was like every time I was around these dudes, it was literally a learning experience. I was just a student of the game. I was a student of the game back then, and I'm still a student of the game 30 years later. It was like crazy that this guy that I grew up watching, Hollywood Shuffle, some of the funniest stuff of all time. Now I'm working with this guy, and he's directing me, and it was great. And then, of course, Halle Berry was the baddest chick on the planet at that time. You know what I mean? Being around her, and then she took a liking to me. I always had her laughing. So it was always, one thing I do love about comedy, beautiful women love comedy. They love to laugh. And that's why I never had a problem in that department.
The Jamie Foxx show. You and Jamie Foxx, y'all had a fallout after you left the show, right?
The Jamie Foxx show, when I tell you, was one of the greatest times of my life. It didn't even feel like I was going to work every day. Felt like I was pulling up to a comedy club or a comedy show and got paid to do what I love to do. And because of my relationships, it's like when I got casted to be on the show, it was like coming home. Because I knew everybody already. I knew Jamie's manager. I knew the executive producer of the show. Shout out Bentley Evans. You know what I mean? And everybody, Marcus King, and just everybody that was around, because I knew Jamie from the days of when he was on In Living Color. I was one of those, put it this way, I was with Jamie the night he got out of valet, out of his, I want to say it was a 1988 240ZX, got out in valet to walk in to audition for In Living Color. I was there the night when he did 5 minutes and got a standing ovation, and the next day he was a member of In Living Color. So I was kind of there from the beginning of the journey with him. I like to tell people I was there from his $1,500 a month apartment to his $27 million mansion. And I'm so proud of him because he's one of those dudes that never forgot where he came from. We always stayed close. We stayed tight. It was like working with your friend every episode. And you got to understand, it's the similarities between the Jamie Foxx show and the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I wasn't on the Jamie Foxx show at the beginning. It was the last 2 or 3 seasons, 4 seasons, something like that. And it was incredible. A lot of people say, hey man, they didn't even really start watching as much until all of us came in Jingles 2000. You know what I mean? Me, Mouse, Curtis, all the guys, you know what I mean? So it was his homies. And we literally just had fun every episode. And the falling out with me and Jamie, it was one of the weirdest situations of my career. It was like my first real dilemma of, oh my God, what am I going to do? This is a blessing, but another blessing just happened to come on the phone. You know what I mean? So long story short, it was the end of the Jamie Foxx show. Like we got wind that this is about to be the last episode or few episodes. So yeah, so in a nutshell, I was a regular on the Jamie Foxx show, right? And I forgot. I mean, I stopped counting how many episodes I was on, but there were some huge episodes that I was on. And I want to say I got the call from Dr. Dre maybe with 2 episodes left. But we knew that it was about to be the end of the Jamie Foxx show. You get what I'm saying? Because the same thing, it's a good problem that he had in his life. Because the problem he had was the same problem that Will had. Okay, you have become so big now that it's now time for you to be a movie star. So exact same thing what happened with Will Smith, and I was there. I got to see it. I was sitting in the dressing room when they walked in the script for Independence Day for Will. You get what I'm saying? Like, this dude's about to go from here, right, to out of here. You know what I mean? And that's why Cut to Independence Day ended up being one of the biggest movies of all time at that time. That dude was literally ready to become a super box office star. It was time for him to move up. You know, it's almost like in comedy where you go from clubs to auditoriums to theaters to arenas, arenas to stadiums. It was like that for them. So in Jamie's case, it was basically the end of the show. Who knew one day while I'm on set, Dr. Dre calls me out of nowhere. Hey, I'm about to do this tour. I want you on this tour. I'm like, you want me on the tour? He was like, hell yeah. You know what I mean? I was like, well, Dre, you know, I'm on the Jamie Foxx show. He's like, yeah, I know. I'll be watching that. You funny as hell. Yeah. He goes, I want to do something that never been done before. And I was like, what is that? He's like, I want a comedian to host a huge hip hop tour. It's going to be the biggest tour of all time. And I was like, oh, really? Who's going to be on it? He's like, man, Ice Cube, you know, NWA, you know, there'll be Snoop Dogg, the East Siders, you know, Warren G, Dub C, and the new kid, his name is Eminem. And I'm like, Eminem was fresh, brand new, but blowing the hell up. I'm like, oh, this sounds like this gonna be huge. He's like, man, 30,000 seats, every single city in America. I want you to host that. I was like, okay, so when are you starting? He like, Thursday. I was like, Thursday? Thursday? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I'm on a TV show, Dre. He's like, he just cut straight to it. He's like, how much that paying you? What you getting paid a week? And at that time, at the Jamie Foxx show was big for me. I was getting $5,000 an episode, right? For a young up and coming dude, this is, you know, 20 something years, 25 years ago. I'm like, I gotta get it. He was like, I'll double that. I was like, so what time am I going on stage Thursday? How long is the drive? Where is the first city? And the first city was Chula Vista. I'll never forget. Chula Vista, San Diego. And now I have a dilemma. And my dilemma is, the bottom line is, no concert on the planet is bigger than any TV show. All right? I don't care how big your concert is. TV show hits whatever. Hundreds of millions of people all over the world. You get what I'm saying? But I had to weigh it out, man. 2 more weeks of $5,000, or damn near make $500,000, $300,000-$400,000, the most I've ever made in my life on a 40-city tour around America. You do the math. What you think I did? Up in smoke. I had to get on tour, man, and to be honest with you, ended up being the most money I've ever made in my life. I bought my first house after I got off that tour. That's how I got the movie The Wash, because when we were on tour, I want to say like maybe our 30th city. I believe we were in Detroit at Eminem's hometown, and DJ Pooh just pulled up in valet one day. Pooh, what's up, da-da? And I just happened to be on Dre's bus, because I hung out with Dre a lot on his bus because it was the only bus on tour where there was no weed and I didn't smoke weed. I would mess around when I'm with Snoop every once in a while, puff on it, and then go cough for 30 minutes, cough my lungs out and stuff. It act like I was down, but I wasn't a weed smoker. And literally the only bus on the Upper Smoke tour that didn't have weed was Dre's bus. He was constantly making music and he was always giving me game about the business. One day, Pooh walks on with this script. Long story short, hey man, we trying to shoot this movie when we get off tour. It's a remake of the famous movie with Richard Pryor. It's called Car Wash. We calling that The Wash. I want you in that. I went out there, killed it on stage in front of 30,000 people. He's like, you ain't even got to audition. You got to roll. So not only was it the most money I'd ever made doing stand-up on a rock star level, but now I got a movie out of it and I bought a brand new house. Jamie was upset, like, you know, because I became really a part of the Jamie Foxx show. But he ended up understanding it was like a business move I had to make. I don't know what city it was, but Jamie ended up coming to one of the shows on tour to see what his little brother was doing. I believe it was like maybe the 25th city, because that's when we shot the DVD in Boston, where the Celtics played. Sold out, 30,000 people. I ripped the roof off that joint, and he was proud of me. He's like, hey man, you stood up, you had to do what you had to do. You know what I mean? And basically that was squashed. It never came to like F you or F you and I don't like you, you ain't. No, it was a business move I had to make. Now I'm gonna be honest with you, and I've never told anybody this. I believe that if I was a part of the Jamie Foxx show from the beginning, and we were like, had guaranteed 4 more seasons on the WB, I would have said no. I would have had to respectfully say no to Dr. Dre, right? Because TV's bigger than me going anywhere live. You get what I'm saying? But things happen for a reason. Ended up being the biggest tour in hip hop history. And at that time, it was the biggest DVD in hip hop history. I did something that had never been done. No comedian was going on stage in front of 30,000 people every night. You understand? The most I had went up in front of was when I would open up for Damon Wayans or Mark Curry or Jamie Foxx back in the day, 5,000. 5,000 was a great sellout for any comedian in the early, like in the 90s. But for me to go from 5,000 people to 30,000 people, do you understand how huge that was? And then you got to understand, I tell people like this, I'm the only one on the show every single night in every city in America that the people did not come to see. My name wasn't on the bill. You saw Eminem. You saw Dr. Dre. You saw Snoop. You saw Ice Cube. You saw Warren G. You saw the East Siders. You saw Mac 10. They didn't put me on the billing, but it was a great surprise to the audience, because even Dre and Snoop came up to me one night and they were like, cuz, you killing it, cuz. Like, they know you, cuz. I was like, I got a little stardom myself. I have been in 5 or 10 movies. I have been all over America myself as a stand-up comedian, just not at this level. You know what I'm saying? I had my following too, but I had to go out there and show them and show the world what I was made of. Not too many comedians can go up in that, when I say a hostile environment, imagine going up in front of 30,000 people, everybody's drunk, everybody's high, and they came to see Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, and if they ain't here to hear no damn jokes. But I thank Dre every time I see him, because it gave me a new type of stardom as far as stand-up goes. It gave me a new type of confidence from going and killing in front of 30,000 people every night. There wasn't a comedy club on the planet I didn't go into it going, I'm gonna rip the roof off this thing. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it was great.
So besides the money, you knew the show was coming to an end, and that's one of the main reasons why you made that decision.
That's the only reason. I wanted you to understand that, so you see, it's easy to do the math. You know what I'm saying? It's easy to do the math. Like, I would have been out of a job. Like, that's the life we live as entertainers. You're only as good as is your next show. That would have been, I'm in this business, so I understand all shows come to an end eventually. You know what I mean? I worked on the Wayans Brothers show for 4 years. I worked on Living Single for 4 years. I worked on One on One for 4 years. I worked on all these black shows, all of us, and every black show there was, Moesha, the Parkers. I worked on all those shows for years, and they all ended up coming to an end. So you just got to, what's next? You know, that's Hollywood.
Smart move. You made a real good decision on that. But I want to go back to the wash. How was it like on set when y'all was shooting that?
The Wash was, when I tell you some of the most fun I've ever had. The Wash was just, when I tell you it was a party and it was comedy. Remember I told you how I don't smoke weed, but when I'm around Snoop, I kind of have to smoke weed? It's been that way for 25 years, me and that dude. By the way, shout out Snoop Dogg, just turned 54 on Monday. His birthday was off the chain. He had the craziest party. He's a Libra, I'm a Libra. His birthday's October 20th. Mine is October 19th. But they wanted him to use fake weed for the movie. So everybody else didn't get high. Man, you think Snoop listened to that? Everybody was high on the set. The makeup lady, the craft services, the lighting, the sound, everything. Snoop, I always say if you cut Snoop open, he'll bleed green. It was so fun doing that movie, man. And DJ Pooh, hell of a director. Him and Dre worked good together. There were so many cameos in it too. Ludacris, Exhibit, rest in peace, Lamont Bentley was in it. You know what I mean? Shaq. It was crazy, man. It was a party. It was a party. And it was always, the women were always around. And I was single at that time. So yeah, it was like, and cut. I'm gonna be up in my room, guys. Call me into 510, whatever you need. I'll be upstairs. Yeah. I used to call it ass services instead of crafts services. Yeah. So you know what I did on my breaks. What was your question?
Lamont Bentley, you brought him up earlier. I want to ask you about him. How was your relationship with Lamont Bentley? And if I'm not mistaken, you two was on Moesha, right?
Exactly. He was my boy. Rest in peace, Lamont. We really got tight. What was crazy is I did some episodes of Moesha. We were cool, but we were like in the same young black Hollywood scene in the 90s. So we partied with a lot of the same people and a lot of the same chicks. So me and him got close because he happened to be messing with a chick and I was messing around with her homegirl and they were roommates. So I would see that dude 3-4 times a week and just ended up at the apartment back in the day. And we got close from that. You know what I mean? But we were young, having a whole lot of fun. And he was really a talented dude. He reminded me a lot of Tupac, rest in peace. Like those dudes that are like thugs and kind of like gangsters, but they're really intelligent and really smart. And like whatever he put his hands on or whatever he did, he was great at. That's kind of how Pac was also. So yeah, rest in peace, Lamont. Lamont was a cool dude, man. Real cool dude.
He was a street dude.
He was from Milwaukee. A lot of people didn't know that. He grew up around a lot of pimps, gangsters, and hustlers. And he wasn't no, so it wasn't like LA street dudes. He wasn't, gang banging or nothing like that. But his lifestyle and the kind of stuff he was into, yeah, like for real, for real. It was like Hollywood was just the job to support some other real, gangster stuff he was doing. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't know that. I mean, most people they look at him as Hakeem on Moesha,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
TV show character. But yeah, he was really about that life, huh?
Oh yeah, Lamont was a real one. I mean, in fact, he got into some mess the night. I mean, I told you, basically, Dr. Dre bought my first house. Thank you, Dr. Dre, by the way. First house. uh, so I'd had a housewarming party when I bought that first house. And man, Lamont came by the crib that night. He bought like 10 or 11 girls with him. And it got crazy and out of hand. People end up getting thrown into the pool and all kind of craziness. The cops came and I'm in an all-white neighborhood. I'm like, damn, it would be. I'm the only black dude in the neighborhood. The night I get here, the popo show up to my house because People are wilding in my backyard boogie slash housewarming. But yeah, Lamont he was a real one. He was a real one.
He got into it with the cops.
No, he didn't get into it with the cops. It was the stuff that was going on at the party. You know how that is. I don't know if you know how it is. If you the only black person in an all white neighborhood and the music's bumping loud and they see smoke and it gets real crazy and people out on the front lawn, they all over the place. And I'm pretty sure the housing association didn't want me there after that night. A bunch of drunk black folks, it turned up. You know what I'm saying? So, but it worked out. It worked out though.
What was your reaction to his passing?
It was tough. I was at the funeral, the way it happened, car accident. And I mean, I hate to sound so cliche, but for those of us that knew him, I really mean when I say gone too soon. You know what I mean? That dude, he loved fast cars. He was literally like the fast lane. Like we were all young, and I was like, dude, like when I would roll with him, slow down. Like, dude, I'm young too, but I got an audition tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, I'm shooting a video tomorrow. I need you to slow down. And you know what? You need to put your seatbelt on. Like that. I felt like I was his big brother. He was just a dude kind of like living on the edge. You know, he lived life fast. And he enjoyed it while he was here. You know what I mean? So
Before we get off the wash, I heard that Suge and some of his people pulled up to the set. Is that true?
you know what? I must not have been there that day. And I was there almost all the days. I wasn't there for that. So I can't speak on that. I did not ever see that. Here's the crazy part. Being a comedian, it's really cool because I never had to like pick a side. And when I say pick a side, I see you got an LA hat. You're not an LA dude, you just have an LA hat on.
Nah, I'm from Houston.
Okay. So when I say I never had to pick a side, I grew up in the heart of South Central LA. And I had family that was Crips, family that was Bloods. But by me not claiming anything and just being the silly dude in the hood and always making everybody laugh, they was like, this dude gonna be somebody one day. He's off limits. It's almost like the same thing when you hear in every hood in America, whether it was the Fifth Ward in Houston, or it was Brooklyn, or whether it was Liberty City in Miami or Compton. There was always that dude that was like an athlete that they're like, yo, we're gonna kind of protect him because he gonna make it to the league one day. You know what I mean? In my case, I was the silly dude. I did not know I wanted to be an actor. I didn't know I was gonna end up being on TV and doing movies. I was just having fun making people laugh. And yes, it ended up being my life and my career. But when I say I didn't have to pick a side, I was friends with both. I have a very interesting story, Art, where being the only black kid in an all-white private school for like 10 years of my life, my parents were like, you are not going to get caught up into this gang life here in South Central LA like a lot of your family members. So we're going to ship you to Beverly Hills. You're going to be around all these white kids all day, right? Who knew, cut to 25, 30 years later, I'd be writing on one of the biggest TV shows of all time, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So a lot of the stuff that you saw on the show, a lot of the stuff that happened, it was really a lot of like how my life really was. That was one reason Will Smith and I got along so well. It was kind of similar to the way he grew up in Philly, but I just grew up in South Central LA. But by 7th grade, we moved to the West Side. So that's why I went to Fairfax High, and that's when I got to around, Pico, Fairfax, the West Side of LA. But the beginning of my life, heart of South Central. Like my parents both went to Manual, Fauché. I got cousins that went to Compton, that went to Crenshaw, Dorsey, Locke, like real LA. So, I think it well-rounded me to what I ended up being as a stand-up comic. I just happen to be one of those stand-up comics that I can go to the blackest room, kill them and get a standing ovation, and I can go to the whitest room and not change. Be the dude I am. You see me on Def Comedy Jam and Comic View and Apollo and all those shows. Yeah, like Chappelle. Shout out to Dave. We all started together. I'll send you pictures of me, Dave, and Mike Epps walking down the streets in 1993, New York, just trying to get on little comedy clubs. I came from a great circle of comedians. You know what I mean? Like I tell people a lot, the question I would get when I would get around white people, they would say, "Oh my God, you were born and raised in South Central LA, the Crips, the Bloods, the gangbangers. Like, how did you avoid a life of crime?" And I always tell them, man, my parents kept me so busy. They kept me so involved in extracurricular activities. I didn't have time for crime. They wanted me to go on a drive-by, but I had choir rehearsal. They wanted me to go and rob the liquor store with them, but I had soccer practice. I was swamped. You know what I mean? But little do you know, when you get over, thank God they did that. Because I remember one time I did the Jay Leno show in the late 90s, and he asked me that question when he found out where I was from. And we got on the subject of, he's like, "So you really were around like the Boys in the Hood and NWA and Crips and Bloods?" I was like, "Yeah, I was around that all the day. I just didn't get involved." He was like, "So what gang were you in?" And I was like, "Oh, I wasn't a Crip or a Blood. I was a Cub Scout, you know?" So yeah, you know what I mean? So it wasn't that same. Put it this way. The all-white school that I went to, by 13, I had been to more bar mitzvahs than barbecues. I had been to so many bar mitzvahs that my mother custom made me my own yarmulke. You know what a yarmulke is, right?
Yeah, I know exactly. She customized you your own way.
My mama made me my own, and guess what she made it out of? A purple Crown Royal bag with that crushed purple velvet.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I was walking around school looking like a little black Jewish pimp. That's what I looked like. Yeah. So that was my life. That was my life, man. But it molded me to who I was. I know I'm cramming a lot at you, but I'm trying to paint the
No,
picture.
look at you now, yo. I mean, it paid off.
Hey, yeah, we'll talk.
Multi-millionaire, a legend. I mean, shout out to your parents, bro.
Oh no, I thank them all the time, man. I thank God that they did that, because I could have easily went down that road like everybody else in my neighborhood. And I want to say this as a disclaimer to all the brothers that came up in the 80s, 70s, early 90s in South Central LA. Not every single brother that came out of that went down that road. I'm one of them. But I have all the respect in the world for all of them, because not everybody was as fortunate to be in that position. That's why to this day, yeah, I might be playing golf with Will Smith and Wayne Gretzky. But an hour later, I still to this day will go to the Slauson Swap Meet, go pick up some Air Force Ones that ain't in the mall, a white t-shirt and some white socks. I like mixing it up. I love that part of me. You're not an LA dude, but there's like something that goes on in this city where a lot of Hollywood dudes will never go south of Wilshire. And everybody in LA will know what I'm talking about. Like, you get to a certain level where you can't go south of Wilshire. No, I'm real LA, bro. Like, born and raised. Like, I like to tell people, Hollywood just happened to be my job. I work in Hollywood, but I'm not Hollywood. It's a difference. You feel me? Yeah, so, yeah.
So let me ask you this: you being an LA guy, how should you move in LA if you're a rapper?
Here's what I say, man. There's good and bad in every city. Period. Point blank. Right? I've by the grace of God, I would just say the last 25 years of my life, at least 30 cities a year. Easy. Just doing stand-up, right? And yes, it's a blessing being a comedian, because we don't get approached the same way rappers do. Rappers get tested. They'll pull up for you in the grocery store. Yeah, that shit you was talking about on number 3, about how you roll up and you have 50,000 in your pocket. You always got the Glocks in the heat. People get tested. People don't come up to me, comedian. Yeah, that's funny shit you said the other day. If anything, was like, "Can you tell me the joke right now?" You know what I mean? We're not targeted like that, right? But you have to move smart and accordingly in every city. It's like hood politics 101. If you're somewhere where you don't know anybody and you solo, even if it's one or two of you, you have to respect the territory and the land you're in. If you respect them, I'm pretty sure they will respect you back. But when you go somewhere where they don't know you, you not from there, it's just the way that it is. First of all, why are you over even in this area? What made you want to come over here? You know good and well, especially nowadays with the internet. It was different when I was coming up in the 90s. I didn't have a navigation to tell me, you might not want to go to this neighborhood. You know what I mean? You might not want to wear your chain at that club. You might not want to mess with that chick that lives on that block. You know, we just kind of knew what we knew. But now you got the whole internet to really have a good idea if it's safe for you to go here or there. You know what I mean? But I feel like also with rappers, the energy you put out, you get tested and that energy comes back to you. I never had a problem whether I was in, New Orleans, Brooklyn, whether it was Compton, Tacoma, Washington, or Chi-Town. I pretty much can go the places I want to go because in a way it was nothing but love with me. But if you're a certain type of guy and you put out that energy, it's kind of like you reap what you sow. You want to act that tough on your album. You want to act that tough and that gangster on your Instagram. Okay, now you here. Now what you gonna do? And unfortunately, a lot of guys have fallen short. Unfortunately, I hate that it's black on black. I hate that what it's got, what it's come to. In some of the cities that the murder rates are out of this world. The Memphises, the Detroits, the St. Louises, the Phillies. You know what I mean? It's a shame that, there's so many murders amongst black on black, like from 16 to 25 years old. Let's just be real. That's that young, dumb age. Everybody's trying to be tough. Everybody's trying to be ignorant. Okay. It's unfortunate that they go to other cities and those things happen. I don't condone the whole you got to check in thing, but I'm not a street dude, so I can't speak on that. But it was real. You know what I mean? But then again, guys ask for that. Because let's just be real, Art. If you really wanted to move below the radar, you can. You really can go wherever you want to. Nowadays, that's on you that you want to post where you're going. That's on you that you want to flash that you got $400,000 on you right now in a $2 million chain and you're about to be up at such and such in an hour. You don't think these dudes are going to pull up on you? And a lot of times, bad things happen when that happens. Like me and my wife and guys my generation, my age, it's kind of like we laugh at it and we can't believe it. I'm coming from a generation, I don't like people to know if I got an extra $20 in my pocket. And I could buy the club if I wanted to. I can buy this house right now if I wanted to, but I don't come off as, ooh, I have a couple of nice pieces of it, but I'm not overboard. You get what I'm saying? Guys that are overboard with it, it's like you're asking for it. It's unfortunate when I'm on Instagram and I see dudes, when I see dudes that get robbed or I see dudes that get killed, and then I go back and look at what the energy he was putting out. You almost want to go, I mean, what did you think, bro? You spoke this stuff. You spoke about that in your lyrics. You talked about that in your raps. You know what I mean? Did that gangster really pay off? And again, not knocking gangster rappers, because I don't want anybody to come at me like, no, you brought the topic up. I'm just saying what I'm gonna teach to my sons, because I have two sons. I have a 10-year-old son, and I have a 7-year-old son, my daughter's 10, and I have a 5-year-old son. Certain things, I'm gonna let them know everything that I know. So you don't have to go through what I went through, or you don't have to go through what's happening out in these streets right now. We're not gonna bring that type of attention to ourselves. I want you to be able to go anywhere you wanna go and enjoy your life and not have to have your head and your neck on a swivel every 2 seconds. You know what I mean? That's not comfortable. That's not cool to have to roll around with $1 billion worth of security because of your mouth. So I don't know if I got too deep. On you there.
Nah, I mean, you keeping it real. But I will say this, though. I mean, you've been having money for decades and decades. Most of these rappers is new money. So, they don't know how to act with it.
I will say this, and I learned this from pimps. Pimps say, if you knew better, you do better. Right? And you have a great point. Yes, I've been fortunate to be able to do this for a long time, right? Rest in peace, Nipsey Hussle, because I was saying this before he was even in the game, but he made it a statement, and this is a marathon. It's not a race. You know how many guys I started out with that maybe jumped out the box and out the boxes quicker than I did, but they're nowhere to be found right now? I realized, are you in this for the long run? Or are you in this for a one-hit wonder or just quick to make some quick money? But I get it, man. Us as people, we come from nothing. We come from the mud. I get it. So the young brothers that are watching this, I hope they're listening. I'm not downing them. I'm just saying, bro, like a lot of them don't have mentors. They don't have that big brother. A lot of them, grew up with no dads in the house to tell them, what the hell are you doing? Why would you flash $50,000 cash and you still living at your mama house? How you gonna have $50,000? Your shoes, you got 30 pair of Louis Vuitton shoes that cost $1,500 a piece, but you don't even pay your child support, and your $50,000 car is sitting on the front lawn. Your priorities are wrong. Go buy something, own something, have your own place. But it doesn't make any sense that you have $50,000 and you're not even taking care of your child support. or you're not taking care of your responsibilities. But then again, I'm a responsible guy, and this is what I'm going to tell my sons. You get what I'm saying? I'm just talking about me and mine. So again, anybody watching, I'm not knocking y'all. I'm just throwing out some things you might want to hear from a real OG.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you was a warm-up comedian for the Moesha show?
How'd you know that? Out of all the interviews I've ever done, that word has never come up. Well, only because you asked, and I wasn't expecting this, I'm going to tell you. And only Black Hollywood knows this about me. I don't bring it up in interviews. I don't bring it up as credits because, a lot of people just don't even know what that job is. But Art, I was the warm-up king of Black Hollywood for a good 15 years. I made millions of dollars off of being a warm-up comedian. But the flip side was, I'm that dude that did warm-up but never stopped actually. Oh, I got to take it back. When I found out in this business there's a whole lot of ways to make money, I was like, count me in for everything. Anything that I ain't got to go back and ever have a regular job in my life. I had a real job in my life for about 2 weeks, and I was in 1990-91 as a telemarketer, and the rest was history, right? So long story short, I ain't never had a real job in my life. So for the people out there that want to know what a warm-up comedian is, since the beginning of time, as long as there's been live TV shows, for the people that are 40 and older, they'll remember shows like, the Good Times and What's Happening and Happy Days and Mork and Mindy, all the way down to Seinfeld, Frasier, Tool Time. Every live TV show since the beginning of time, there was always a live audience. And there had to be a comedian that was live in the audience to get the people in laugh mode, to get them laughing, to watch this live TV show that's about to happen for approximately 4.5 hours. With that being said, it all started with the Wayans brothers. Their first season, I want to say it was 94. I'd only been doing comedy 2-3 years. They were my friends. They got a brand new TV show. They were like, Alex, we want you to be our warm-up comedian. I was like, what in the hell is a warm-up comedian? Man, you know what you do. What you do in the comedy clubs, but the only difference is it's a live TV taping. You got a guaranteed audience of 200-300 people every week. And you just got to be able to freestyle, keep the audience up and going, keep them involved in the show, and da-da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, man, I don't know, bro. How much does it pay? Man, he told me the money right back. I was like, so when do I start? You got to understand, I'm a young comedian at this time. I don't really have any credits. I haven't been on the road. I haven't made real money being a stand-up comedian. But when they told me the amount that this pays, and all I got to do is sit here for 4 hours and make people laugh, get some energy going, and the studio, Warner Brothers, is going to pay me, sign me up. Long story short, the Wayans brothers became a success. And I'll never forget, they used to tape on Thursdays. What would happen was people from other shows would come to the live tapings to watch the Wayans brothers. And who would they see up there? Killing, ripping the crowds on a weekly basis. And they go, hey, I'm the executive producer of Living Single. We got a hot show too. We tape on Tuesdays. I was like, they're like, could you do that? I was like, you damn right. Okay, so Tuesdays, now I got Living Single. Thursdays, I got the Wayans brothers. Next thing you know, one of the writers, there was a writer on Moesha, happened to be working on the Wayans brothers show that way. We need a warm up. When do you guys tape? We tape on Wednesday. Long story short, there was a time, and I'm just going to leave it at this. There was a time between 94 and I would say 2000, 94, maybe 99, until I got the Jamie Foxx show and I wasn't able to do warm up anymore, that I was making $40,000, $50,000 a week. It was like dope money. It was like dope money. I was getting TV money because I'm working at, back in the, I think Living Single was on Fox. The Wayans brothers were on Warner Brothers. Different networks. I did the Gregory Hines show back in the day. One-on-one, all of it. I became the go-to guy because here's the tough thing about warm-up comedy. You can't cuss. Whole lot of funny black dudes out there. Dudes that I would witness get standing ovations on Comic View. Standing ovations at the Apollo. Standing ovations at Def Comedy Jam. But there was no way that they can go for 4 hours and not cuss. So I had the upper hand on everybody. Because remember, warm up, dude, let's say the average Wayans brother crowd, let's say it was 250 people in the audience. There might have been like 100, 150 black, but there was white people, there was tourists, Hispanics, Asian people, gay, straight, whatever they were. You have to have that universal type humor that you can make everybody laugh for 4 hours. That ain't easy. And here's the one thing that a lot of comics couldn't do. And this what made me an incredible comedian. You can't really do the jokes that you do at comedy clubs. So that cut 90% of the comics out. Why? If I can't do my jokes that I do from the comedy clubs, what the hell am I going to do for 4 hours, this 4-hour taping? You know what it forced you to have to do? Freestyle. Not too many people can freestyle off the top of the dome, keep a live audience involved while you have a real TV production going on literally 5 feet behind your back. I became like the coldest quarterback / comedian on the planet, and I was able to pull it off. So with that being said, I became the warm-up king of Black Hollywood for almost a good 10, 15-year run. It literally went from show to show to show to show to show, and I was just the guy they called up. And it was a hustle. It was an amazing hustle because people are like, this dude's he's not a star, but I see him in commercials. I see him do stand-up, but he's driving this, he's driving that, he's all over the world. Hey man, I was a LA hustler that figured out a way. I can make money doing warm-up. I can make money writing. I can make money producing. I can make stand-up, acting, commercials, voiceover, animation, and I got counted in for everything.
Yeah, you was getting to it. Gotta ask you, speaking of Moesha, did you know Merlin Centennial?
I just knew him in passing. I was real close to Lamont, but again, we were all in the same Hollywood loop of friends, clubs, parties. Like I used to give huge birthday parties every year. Merlin would come to all my parties. Or I would invite him to come see me at the Laugh Factory, the Comedy Store. Merlin would bring 4 or 5 chicks with him and we just have a good ass time. I was never super close to him, but he was my homie. So yeah, it was tragic. That was tragic what happened to him too. So I saw the interview you did with Omar. Shout out to Omar Gooding, my boy. But he was much closer than I was to him.
Players Club. How did that come about? You getting a role in it, and how was it like on set? I know that had to be crazy, huh?
Players Club. When I say that's right up there with Don't Be a Menace as far as the iconic movies that I was in, that like to this day, I have girls that come up to me and say, I'm on the pole now because of Diamond. And I'm like, you're 24. Were you watching Players Club when you were 3? What the hot? What you? Does Lisa Ray know that you're the reason she's on the pole right now? You know what I mean? We always joke. Shout out to Lisa Ray because she's my sister to this day. Put it this way: I'm so close with Lisa Ray that Lisa Ray is one of my wife's best friends now. So we became friends when we did the movie back in the day. But talking about fun, talking about shout out to Ice Cube, another movie that changed my life, another movie that was iconic, another hood classic. It was beyond fun. He was like me. I don't know if you ever been to Magic City. You been to Magic City? Hey man, Magic City is the Yankee Stadium of strip clubs. And I can give you 9 hours of stories about that. That'll be another show. But Players Club was like being at Magic City all day, every day. Like, put it this way, Players Club's the only movie that, let's say I had to shoot, say I had to be there 10 hours, I would stay an extra 6 hours just because of the fun I was having on the set there. Yeah, like I'm not going home. I'm going to stay here and hang out with all the big booty atmosphere with drinks and food and everything else. Uh, it was fun. That's all I can say. Players Club was fun, and I got that role. A lot of people asked did I have to audition. I actually did, but I knew Cube. You know, I known Cube for years. Again, I was really a part of this West Coast culture for a long time. A lot of people's videos, but I was so deep in character because it was the character Clyde was supposed to be like an Atlanta type dude. The gold teeth, you feel me? How they talk like that down there. I shot, you know that how they talk down there in the A. You feel me? And I went in there as that character. I mean, I was so deep in character, Cube almost didn't recognize me. I went in there with a gold tooth. I looked like I was one of the members of the Dungeon family. Like I was one of them niggas an outcast. You know what I'm saying? And I killed the audition. And I had to read for it like everybody else. And I got the role. And it was great.
How was it like being on set with Bernie Mac?
Man, rest in peace, Bernie Mac. I got close with Bernie on that set. One thing Bernie and I had in common, he was a golfer also. So every once in a while, Bernie and I would get out and play on the off days. And he just liked me as a young comedian. He remembers me from Def Comedy Jam. Remember, he was an icon on that. I was one of the young kids coming at that. And then at that time, there was a comedy club in Chicago called All Jokes Aside. And shout out to George Wilborn and all my Chi-Town dudes, Dion Cole and Leon Rogers and all those dudes. But I was a young comic that Bernie took a liking to. And he was always cool. He was like a mentor to me. We talked a lot, but it was fun. There's quite a few people that are no longer with us from that. You know, shout out Tiny Lister. He was there. Charlie Murphy was in the movie. Rest in peace. You know what I mean? It was a great cast. When I say it was fun, and every time they said cut, it was like a whole different party started. You don't even understand. That's another one of those that I can honestly say, like I told you about the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, 20 years later, I'm still friends with people that I worked with on that set. You know what I mean? It was like a little family. And we shot that right in LA. That was supposed to look like a strip club in Atlanta. A lot of people didn't know that. People thought it really was Atlanta. We shot that at some spot in Chatsworth. It was crazy.
Me hearing you talk about it, man, you almost was knocking down a lot of chicks on set.
Oh yes, they were. I can't lie. It was the Wild Wild West for sure. Like I loved how Q mixed in actresses with real strippers and real. We used to call it atmosphere instead of atmosphere. We used to call it. Can we get more atmosphere? I need 3 more big booties to the left of camera. Oh, I had everybody dying laughing. And the strippers love to laugh. And I was that dude that was genuinely friends with all the strippers. Like it was funny when we finished Players Club. I looked at my phone book and all the numbers I had in my phone, it looked like a grocery list. It was like peaches, delicious, tatalicious, sapphire, honey, sugar. Like it was just, I was like, wow, I really made some good friends on this set. Yeah, they're all my friends. And we stayed tight. And whenever I had a pool party or a get together, I would invite them all and everybody loved it. I was that dude. I told you though, I was a dirty whore before I got married. My wife knows that. Uh, I knew put it this way. I knew the strippers by their real names. I'm not too proud of that, but it's the truth. You know, people be like, oh, there's Peaches. I'm like, you talking about Lisa Anderson? Yeah, that's, yeah. Be like, oh, that's Desire. No, that's Desiree Jenkins is who that is. Okay, like I knew they first, last name, they government names, you know what I mean? But yeah, it was a lot that went down on the Players Club. Put it this way. Thank God he had nice sized dressing rooms. They weren't the little cubby holes. Because a whole lot of shit went down. Yeah, yeah.
I had no idea that you could have been a Friday.
So it wasn't Friday. It was, I want to say, Baby Boy. And that I had a little, rest in peace, John Singleton. I had a little falling out with him just because he was telling me about the movie, and it ended up being a role that didn't even make the movie. And for me to be young and to say no at that time, again, it kind of made me feel kind of empowered because I was like, I love John and I loved everything that he did film wise. He was a huge part of our culture. Again, rest in peace. He was a cool homie of mine. But what he wanted me to do in the movie, I was just like, you're joking, right? It was gonna be some scene where I don't know if it was Snoop or somebody was gonna come upstairs and I was gonna be under the covers, eating some girl out. And you pull back the covers, Alex Thomas, and he whoops my ass and beats me down. He's like, it would just be a quick cameo. I'm like, I don't want to be known as the coochie eating comedian that got one line before I got stomped the fuck out. And you know what I mean? I told him no. He was mad at me. He was upset, but I was like, I don't know if that's just going to be a great thing for my role. I mean, is there some other shit I could do before I eat the coochie and die? Like, can I have a shootout scene? Can I make love to somebody first? Can I do something great before I get shot in the back of my head for eating somebody's girlfriend's coochie? And so, as you know, if you saw Baby Boy, that scene didn't make it, and I said no, and John was a little mad at me. But hey, it is what it is. Look at you. You cannot stop laughing. This is what you wanted on the art of dialogue. I know. I know. I see you laughing. Yeah.
What was his reaction when you turned it down?
No, he was almost like, how dare you say no to me? Like, I'm John Singleton, and I'm like, I know I'm a fan. I love what you do, and I would have loved to have another role, just not coochie eater number 2. You know what I mean? Now I got to be out in the streets. Hey man, ain't you the one that was eating old girl coochie and they shot you 3 times in the back? Yeah, that's me. Yeah, you don't eat coochie no more, do you? You know what I mean? Has the last coochie you own ate? You know what I mean? I wasn't that desperate. You know what I mean?
I mean, at that point, when he asked you to do that role, you was in some good movies, man. So I mean, he could have gave you a better role than that.
And you took the words out of my mouth. Don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna mention no names, but there's some guys out there that probably would have loved to eat the coochie for a check and be known as the coochie eater. And now you in the streets. Oh my God, girl, they go the coochie eater. I was good on that one. So
Yeah, at that point in your career, yeah, he should have offered you a better role. But I did see somewhere where you made a comment about how you was offered to be in Friday, right? But at that point in your career, you was tired of doing black movies.
oh yeah, 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 yeah. It did come up, and then my whole thing was, it's nothing against black movies, but what happens is because that's what made me famous. You know what I mean? But it comes a point in your career where you try to diversify. You don't want to just the only thing they see you in is the hood. You know what I mean? I was really trying to do some other things. You know what I mean? And to be honest with you, that happened around the same time I got offered to do the movie Castaway. Castaway Goes Down is one of the biggest movies of all time, right? And a lot of people don't know this story, but I'm on the art of dialogue. So I might as well dig in for something you didn't even know. And I haven't really told this story a lot, but man, I thought Castaway was going to change my life. So that was one of the reasons I said no to that Friday. I don't remember which Friday it was. I couldn't remember because he did so many, but it all happened around the same time. And I'm like, go do this all black hood movie or go do this movie with one of the biggest actors of all time, Tom Hanks and Helen Hunt. This could change my life, right? So I took the role in Castaway. I'm like, man, finally, thank you, Jesus. Mama, I made it. I love my black people, but it's time for your boy to try to explore his horizons. You know what I mean? Long story short, it took us almost 2.5 years to shoot Castaway. The reason it took so long, if you remember, that's when Tom Hanks also did The Green Mile. We had to take a year off. He had to lose like 100 pounds because remember, he lost all the weight to look, like he hasn't eaten in months from being stranded on an island. You saw the movie. So he literally stopped one movie, went to go do another movie. We came back. Long story short, I was the fleet manager at FedEx before the plane took off. A whole scene with Tom Hanks and Helen Hunt. I got the pictures to prove it. I'm like, my life is about to change. How about 2 weeks before the premiere? I actually got a suit made, Art, for the premiere so I could be fly as hell. My life's about to change. I'm finally in a huge white movie. How about they call me and tell me they cut my role out of the movie? It's almost like, when you hear rappers, they did an album and they had like 16 songs, but the label said you could only put 12 on there or 13. So it just doesn't make it time-wise. So they got to figure out a few things to cut. And my scene did not make the movie. I was crushed. When I tell you it was the saddest I've ever been, I don't want to tell you the thoughts I had going through my head. Like, I can't believe this is happening. I just turned down that Friday movie, right? And I get cut out this movie. I was crushed. I'm like, my career's over. How about cut two? I want to say a year and a half, 2 years after the movie, and my depression of being like, man, what am I going to do with my life now? I get a residual check from Castaway. I was like, wait, what? And this is once I got with at that time, my girlfriend. And she knew about all the movies I got, but now she's living with me and she starts seeing residual checks. So she could see the residual checks from movies I was in, TV shows. One day she opens up a Castaway check and was like, oh my God. She like, first of all, that's one of my favorite movies of all time. I ain't never seen you in Castaway. I was like, because I got casted away out of Castaway. How about I had no clue that even though I didn't make the movie, when you get cut out of a movie that deep into the production, you still get paid. I was crushed. I was hurt. I'm a little angry to this day because that really, truly could have changed my life. That means the average white person in America would have known who I was. When I walk into my country club, they would have known who I was. I could have went into a Jewish synagogue and they would have, it's one of the biggest movies in movie history at that time. I would have transcended from the hood movies to it's kind of like when Dave Chappelle did You've Got Mail with Tom Hanks. If you look back, he had done a bunch of black things, but when he did that movie with Tom Hanks, now white people knew who he was. You get what I'm saying? It could have changed my life. But long story short, I couldn't believe the check came. I couldn't believe how much it was. And the story, long story short, is you don't see me in the movies, but I still get Castaway checks to this day. Would I have rather been in that movie? Absolutely, because guess what? There's a saying in Hollywood, and it's called work gets you work. If I had been in that movie, dude, the offers would have been crazy because it immediately makes you beyond legitimate when you're with a superstar actor like that. And it just happened to be my scene was with Tom Hanks and Helen Hunt. So I got casted away out of Castaway. but I still get them castaway checks. You feel me?
That's a hell of a story, man. But speaking of roles, have you ever been offered a gay role?
Wow, that's crazy. You asked that. That actually happened to me right after we came out of COVID. And I'd always heard about this. You always hear about, in Black Hollywood, you ain't made it until you either play a gay role or you get offered a gay role. And I'm like, oh my God, it has finally happened to me. So I get a call from my agent one day, and he was just like, Alex, a huge offer just came across my desk. Huge movie, a lot of money, huge director, and I just had to run it by you. I was like, cool, so what is it? He's like, well, I do want to just let you know up front, it's a gay role. And before I even get into it, would you play a gay role? And I told him respectfully, no. Just nothing against gay people. I have gay friends, gay family. I know gay people, but just personally, that's just not something I'm trying to do. I have two young black sons, and I'm their example, and that's just not something I want to do. Right? He goes, respectfully. He goes, but can I ask you a personal question? I say, yeah, no problem. He said, what is it about black men or the black culture? Why are you guys so homophobic? And I'm like, well, I can't speak on behalf of everybody else. I'm just speaking on behalf of myself. It's not something I want to do as a black man with two young black sons. You know what I mean? And a beautiful wife and a daughter. That's just not something I want to portray. And I said, and let me explain to you what happens in the African American community. So long story short, when we blow up as a character art, you become that dude for the rest of your life. You black, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to give you an example, and I'm going to say a name. Alfonso Ribeiro, Carlton, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. One of the greatest roles in TV history, right? Made millions and millions of dollars off this role. One of the most famous actors in the world off that one character, right? But to black folks, he is Carlton to the day he dies. Can I get an amen?
Amen. Facts.
So I'm going to give you the example of what I'm talking about. So as far as Alfonso Ribeiro, uh, we all know Alfonso Ribeiro could be in the next Avatar movie. No, Alfonso Ribeiro could be in the next Black Panther. And you know what black folks will say, right? Black folks will be like, you see that Carlton in the new Black Panther movie? Yeah, Carlton done went from Bel-Air to Wakanda. That boy Carlton, he cold-blooded, right? And I say, it just be my luck, Art, that I say yes and I agree to do Broke Black Mountain 3. And now I'm just known to the whole black world as the gay black cowboy that got a train pulled on him up in the mountains by the Indians. Now, now I'm just known as Raheem, and now I got to deal with, I'm out in public with my two sons, black folks coming up to me like, oh, hey, T, there go Raheem. Hey, Raheem. Hey, you killed it in that movie, bro. Hey, man, them Indians blew your back out up in them hills. But they tore your ass off the frame, bro. And of course, me, what would I say? Hey, man, thank you, man. That was just one of my roles. just acting. No. What do black people say? Nah, you did that too good. You took it in the face, my boy. It was bang, 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 Raheem. I don't need that, brother. And it just be my luck. Art, that I'm up for an Oscar. It's my critically acclaimed role. I'm on the front of every magazine in America as the gay black cowboy, Raheem. The one that the Indians pulled a trainer. I don't need that in my life. So I was like, I'm good. So the answer was no. Yeah, not gonna do it. I'm not that dude that'd be like, hey man, if I gotta do that to, if I gotta sell my soul, or if I gotta do this to get bigger, I'm just not that dude. And I don't have anything against other brothers that did it. If you notice, I'm not bringing up no names because I know they all did it for their reasons. That's just not my style. That's just not something I'm doing. And I'm never going to do something I'm not comfortable with. Now, there are some things that you go, hey, man, that might be, crossing the line, or that might be going too far, but that's just something that I can tell you, I don't care how much money it is, I'm not going to do that. And it was a crazy offer. But again, my morals and my values are bigger than anything that I could just do on TV or a screen. Because again, the number one thing in my life is me being a father and being an example to my two black sons and my daughter. You know what I mean? That means more to me than anything.
And you said it was a crazy offer. How much was it?
Man, it was in the six figures if I had taken it. But like I said, that's just not, I didn't even need to read the script. I didn't need to know, oh, what if it was such and such in it with you? Still, I'm the one that those dudes was gonna run a train on. It's kind of like going back to what I told you about with John Singleton. I'll just be known as the coochie eater. And then I got shot. And then I got shot in the back. Like, really? It's up to you to say yes or no in this business. You get what I'm saying? It's up to you, and you have to live with the consequences. It's almost like, reaping what you sow, or believing in the golden rule, doing unto others as you would have them do unto you. If you're going to put that out there, hey, just be ready for what's going to come back. And again, I say it very clearly, nothing against gay people. Like I said, gay family, gay friends, no gay people. I went to a high school, one of the most famous high schools in LA, Fairfax High School. And anybody in LA that's watching know, they had a gay club. They had a gay class at my school in high school. So I was always around it. But that's just not, that's not my lane. You feel me? So
Do you believe in a casting coach?
I've heard all about it. I've been on, I couldn't even lie to you, thousands of casting couches, because that's just part of being in this business. Oh, and yes, it's real. But I think the thing that saved me is because I'm a real LA dude first. That counts for a lot. You got to understand, I'm in a business where 95% of all my peers came from other places. Let's just stick with comedy. So many dudes, I don't have to mention their names. You know them all. They all came from other cities to come to Hollywood to get rich and famous. I always like to say, they flew here, I grew here. You understand? So my set of morals and where I came from kind of shifted and applied to when I got to Hollywood. Like a question I get a lot is, how you been in Hollywood all these years and never get caught up in the whole drugs and alcohol and all that crazy stuff, right? Simple answer, man. I had people that overdosed in my family. I grew up in South Central LA. I saw how cocaine was killing families and whole households, and I had it in my family. I had people that overdosed. The last thing I'm gonna do is when I got to Hollywood, do some shit that can kill me. And then me being a sports fanatic, one of my favorite players as a kid was Len Bias. If you don't know who Len Bias is,
Yeah, R.I.P. to him. Yo, I
Google.
think he played Celtics, right?
Come on, man. And never played one game because the one time he tried cocaine, he died. And I was in ninth grade when that happened. And ever since that happened, not only was craziness happening in my family, but I always tell my kids to this day, I was telling my son yesterday, I said, put it this way, if Len Bias was alive today, we'd be wearing his shoes instead of these Jordans. Ask Michael Jordan who gave him problems. Ask Michael Jordan, who was one of the hardest players he ever played against, Len Bias. And in ninth grade, that hit me like a ton of bricks. So every time it was even offered to me, every time I was around it, I'm like, that is the last thing on the planet. I'll just be my luck. I'll try it for one time and die. You know what I mean? So yeah, when I got to Hollywood and that was being passed around like M&Ms or crackers on a tray, I'm like, no, I'm good. Y'all can party all you want. I'm just good on that. You know what I mean? So the casting couch, yeah, it's people that came out and they'll do anything to get famous. That's on you. You know what I mean? So, but you know what? It's kind of like the energy you put out. I want you to know that. That goes for males and females. You get tested. Weak women get tested, weak men get tested. If they feel like, how bad do you want it? As the mother taking off his clothes. You know what I'm saying? How bad do you want it? Oh, if I ever heard that kind of shit, I'd be like, okay, it's time for me to bounce. Because now you talk about some shit that Either I'm gonna go to jail or something bad's gonna happen up in here because yeah, that's not me. You know what I mean? But thank God I never got tested like that. But I've heard all the stories. You know what I'm saying? So,
So women can sleep their way to the top in Hollywood.
oh, absolutely. But there's only so far that goes. Don't get me wrong. There's always some that slip through the cracks. But you can't go off of that. Well, such and such, she slept her way to the top, and you're going off of that. And so is that are you? That's gonna validate why you gonna lick and suck and do all this to make it famous? You know what I mean? Yes, there are people that happened to, but you don't go off of that. You know what I mean? How about trying to really have some talent? Start there. You know what I mean? So you don't just get ran up and ran through. Because I've seen a lot of girls go that route. You know what I mean? Those chicks end up just getting fucked and fucked over. Same thing with the dudes, fucked and fucked over. So it all depends on, what route you're trying to go. A lot of people say that's probably why it took me so long. A lot of people say, man, maybe you would have been bigger if you hadn't went that route. Oh, well, I don't know because I didn't go that route and I never will. So I don't feel bad about that. You know what I mean? I like having my integrity. I like being able to sleep at night and like, hey, God has a route and a plan for everybody. You know what I mean? And for the fact that it's over 30 years and I'm still here, fly, fresh, relevant, still in the game, doing what I love to do, never having to have a regular job, that's a blessing in itself.
So selling your soul in Hollywood, that's a real thing then, in a sense.
Oh, absolutely. 1,000%. 1,000%. And there's people that are willing to do anything. But see, you got to understand, I'm one of those dudes back to, I was that little dude that even when I wasn't famous, even when I wasn't on TV, even when no one knew my name, I was always that dude that had a mouthpiece. And I know how to make the girls laugh and have a good time. I didn't have to do certain things that certain dudes got to do to get a chick. You get what I'm saying? I had that gift of gab and swag. I'm not a pretty nigga, but my mama think I'm handsome. You know what I mean? I knew my lane. When you know your lane, it's a beautiful thing. People see my wife and they go like, Jesus, how did you get such a beautiful wife? Like, hey man, hey, these jokes paid off in a nice little kind of way. You know what I'm saying? I ended up being with the love of my life, the best thing that ever happened to me, and she's beautiful. You know what I'm saying? I got lucky. You know what I'm saying? But if people think they got to do anything and everything and they end up lonely, you know what I mean? Drugged out, whatever it is, because of some horrible decisions they made, you know?
Tell me about this puffy party where you met Michael Jackson. You called it the best night of your life?
I'm almost starting to think you work for the feds. Are you the police? I mean, you don't show your face. You behind the scenes, and now you know everything about a brother. Do you know if I'm vegan? Do you know when's the last time I had a piece of red meat? Like you really got some inside stuff. That's crazy. No, people, it's crazy you bring that up because that's a question I've been getting way more than ever. Now that Diddy's locked up and all that kind of stuff. But people, when they find out that I've been in the business 30 years or more, you ever been to a Diddy party? You ever been to a Diddy party? I'm like, bro, I'm just honest because I have nothing to hide. Like I say, I'm a real one. You know what I'm saying? Um, I've been to so many Diddy parties. I was on his mailing list. I tell the truth. You know what I mean? And long story short, I'm gonna paint the picture for you so you could really see my side of the story, okay? And how you see why my name ain't ever came up. All right. First things first, you gotta understand. I was famous for like 20 minutes in the 90s, damn it. I was famous, Art. I I went to 14 All-Star weekends in a row. You know about NBA All-Star weekend? You know how big NBA All-Star weekends are,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, they real big. I mean, I
Like
heard the parties be insane.
like the craziest parties you've ever been to in your life. I went from like maybe say 97 to 2010, 11, 12, something, but I literally did a 14-year stretch. And every single year in every single city in America, there was only two parties you had to be at, and it was the two biggest parties every year, and that was Michael Jordan's party and Diddy's parties. Off the chain, like literally thousands of people, every top-notch performer you can think of, the best food, the most incredible women, like literally off the chain. But you got to understand, as far as Diddy goes, I went to everything. You remember when Sean John first came out?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
I was there. New York Fashion Week. Thousands of people. Biggie performing. Craig Mack, rest in peace. On craziest thing, right? Remember when Ciroc first came out?
Yep.
When I tell you Diddy had the craziest party in his backyard, he turned his backyard into Coachella. Thousands of people. Rick Ross performing. Mary J. Blige. It was crazy. El DeBarge. Like, it was absolutely insane. And the key word, thousands of people. And now I'm about to really get deep with painting this picture. You got to understand, I was always considered a B and C list celebrity. I never made it to the A list. I did 15, 20 movies myself, but I never made it to the A list. Only the A-listers got invited to the freak-offs. Every single Diddy party I went to, that dude had me in general population with 1,000 other regular civilians. With that being said, are you following me?
I follow you. I'm picturing it all in my head right now.
Okay, I had one rule and one rule only at every Diddy party I ever went to. And I went to so many, I'm not lying to you, I stopped counting. I went to so many Diddy parties and I had one rule and one rule only, and that was be gone by 1:15. I don't care how many beautiful women were in the building. I don't care how many celebrities were in the house. I was always gone by
1:15.
1:15. I have no idea what time the baby oil came out, because I was always gone by
1:15.
1:15. I have no clue what time the midgets came out with the pink cocaine, because I was always gone by
1:15.
So, with that being said, I actually can't say anything bad about Diddy, because the greatest night of my life in 30 something years of partying in Hollywood actually happened at a Diddy party. And I remember it like it was yesterday. Diddy's 30th birthday party, 1999, at the Playboy Mansion. When I tell you it was the coldest party I've ever been to in my life, because I had never been to the Playboy Mansion before, it was beyond incredible. Thousands of people. But it wasn't so much that it was a Diddy party. You know why it was the greatest night of my life? Art. Because it's the night I met Michael Jackson. I met Mike that night, and I remember like it's yesterday, man. Literally, I'm just sitting here talking with Eddie Murphy in Arsenio Hall. We're just sitting there talking, blah, blah, blah. And out of nowhere, Eddie Murphy just goes, yo, Alex, you ever met Mike? And I'm like, Mike who? Like, I don't know which Mike you're talking about, because this is 1999. And in 1999, I met Michael Jordan and I met Mike Tyson. So I really didn't know which Mike he was talking about. He goes, Michael Jackson. I'm like, no, I never met him. He's like, you want to meet him? I'm like, hell yeah, I want to meet Michael Jackson. He's like, oh yeah, he's right there. I look to my left, 10 feet away from me, Michael Jackson and Tom Cruise are hanging from the ceiling of the Playboy Mansion in this giant swing. Like, you know, swings you push kids in the park? But it was like an adult swing that could fit like 10 adults. And it was just Michael Jackson and Tom Cruise just hanging 10 feet away from me. And the first thing that went through my mind is, damn, Michael Jackson really is white. You didn't realize how white he was until he was sitting next to a real white person. Tom Cruise was 3 shades darker than Michael Jackson. It looked like Mike was sitting on that swing with Wesley Snipes. That's how much darker Michael Jackson was than Tom Cruise, right? So then out of nowhere, Arsenio goes, yo, he probably knows who you are. I'm like, man, get out of here. There's no way in the world that Michael Jackson knows who I am. He's like, no, you don't understand. His life is so stressed out. All he does is watch comedy, TV shows, movies. He just wants to laugh. And I was like, and he loves stand up. So I was like, oh, wow. Well, maybe Mike knows who I am. Because in 99, Art, I was popping. I was on the Jamie Foxx show, Players Club, Two could play that game. I had movies in the theaters, Comic View. I was like, maybe he knows who I am. He's like, yeah, so take me over there. Eddie walks me over to Mike. He just goes, Mike, Alex Thomas, Michael Jackson. Mike reaches out his hand. He grabs my hand. And dude, he just started dying laughing. Dying. Like I'd never heard his laugh before. He's like, and out of nowhere, he just looks me dead in my face and goes, "You're so funny." Brother, my whole body went numb. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I just got emotional because I couldn't believe Michael Jackson knew who I was. And a small tear came down my face, like Denzel in Glory. I couldn't believe who Michael Jackson knew who I was, right? And out of nowhere, my emotions just took over. That little one tear turned into me crying like a little groupie bitch. Like it really happened. Like I said, I turned into a little bit. And I just gave him the biggest hug. I went right into his ear. I was like, I love you, Michael. Michael, I love you. Everybody around me just died laughing. I pull away, and I don't know what made me do this, Art, but I pinched the tip of his nose. Eddie Murphy and Arsenio hit the ground. They were laughing so hard. You don't know how great it felt to have all three of my idols dying laughing at the exact same time. Arsenio got up off the floor, wiping tears out of his eyes. And he looked me dead in my face. He was like, bruh, you are the first person I've ever seen touch Michael's face and get away with it. He said, so I suggest you get the fuck up out this party right now before his security comes over here and breaks both your legs. I said, you ain't said nothing but a word, because I looked down at my watch and it was
115.
1:15. I said, guess what? It's time to beat it. I'm out of here. True story. And that's the name of my next 1 hour special. It's called Alex Thomas True Hollywood Stories. I'm telling it all. All my stories, man. I was talking to my wife the other day and I was like, damn, baby, it's crazy because I feel like after 30 something years of telling jokes, I don't have any more jokes. All I have is stories. True Hollywood stories. And my wife was like, oh my God, that's the name of your next 1 hour special. Alex Thomas, True Hollywood Stories. So it's just going to be a culmination of this journey. And I found a way to make it all funny. You feel me?
How did that come about? You getting on Get Rich or Die Trying?
Hey, how did I get, I'm going to ask the question for you. How did I end up on Get Rich or Die Trying? The Wash. So look how it went from me leaving the Jamie Foxx show to going to the Up and Smoke tour. The Up and Smoke tour, I got the movie The Wash. And from The Wash, literally, when we were editing, I want to say when we had finished shooting and they were editing for The Wash, I get another call from Dre. We just got off tour. Now we're shooting a movie. And he goes, hey, I got this new dude. He about to come out. I need you to get down and do some sketches on that. I was like, oh, okay, what's his name? He was like 50 Cent. And I was like, never heard of him. You know what I mean? Like, no idea. He was like, hey man, come to the studio. I got something you want to. I want you to hear. I had no idea about the beef with Ja Rule and 50 Cent. And I'm a hip hop head, but I'm an LA dude. Remember, that 50 wasn't a star yet. Ja Rule was a star, right? Ja Rule had hits, huge. I didn't know the locals that's going down in Jamaica, Queens, and he's from Queens. I didn't know none of that. He just said, hey man, this new dude named 50 Cent, got some beef with Ja Rule. I was like, oh, okay. He goes, he's trying to say that the dude is gay. I was like, really? I never knew Ja Rule for being gay, but I wasn't hip to any of this stuff. He let me hear a quick clip of, apparently it was some gay dude that called Hot 97 on one of the huge radio stations in New York. And I guess it was a gay dude that was so-called, I don't know if it was his boyfriend. I don't know if it was a dude that was, that we took it as the dude called and left a message on the radio station. And all he said was like, y'all leave Jeffrey alone. That's my boo. Leave him alone. Stop messing with Jeffrey. And cut. He's like, you fucking with it? I was like, what you want me to do? He's like, man, come up with some shit and did it, da 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 da. Man, he said, I'll give you $10,000 for it. I was like, so where's the booth at? Okay, where do I need to do? Am I going to set up and do it here? Like literally, I was just fucking around, not really knowing the situation, but just Dre saying, this is going to be some funny shit. This dude, 50 Cent, is going to be big. I'm producing his whole album. I didn't know that would end up being one of the biggest rap albums of all time. I didn't realize this was going to be one of the coldest albums in hip hop ever. Dr. Dre producing that whole shit. I didn't even know where he was going to put it on the album. All I know is I went in there for 30 minutes and I walked out with $10,000 cash in a duffel bag. Oh, and by the way, another shout out to Dr. Dre. He bought me a pool table that week. Remember the house that he just helped me buy on from the Upper Smoke tour? I got this big ass house and I've always wanted a pool table. He was just like, hey, how much that's, but he bought me a pool table just out of love. $10,000 cash in a pool table. I went in there and did that sketch. Next thing I know, the album sells 14 million albums. This brand new dude on the cover, bullet shots and all, he's a gangster. And there was only one funny sketch on that whole album. Big things come in small packages, holla. I'm a 12-degree pink belt. I will slice and dice his ass. What? The rest was history. And how about Dre left my name off the album purposely because they really wanted it to be like it wasn't from a comedian. It was a real tape from some dude. So everybody knows if you got that album, which 14 million people in the whole world got it, it's Back Down, number 10 on the album. And that was, people say it was the song that ended Ja Rule's career. Hey man, I just went in and did a job. I had nothing against Ja Rule. I'm just a comedian. I've been doing skits and sketches on all kind of people's albums, but that's the one that just blew the fuck up. So, yeah. Ja Rule, if you're watching, I ain't had nothing against you, bro. I know you play golf now. We ain't got a chance to golf together, but hey, it was just a sketch and a little extra cash in a pool table.
I heard Ja Rule was mad about it.
I heard he was, because we ended up being in the Nori video together. That another video. That when I talk to people like you, sometimes it makes me think, damn, I've been a part of some huge ass things in this hip hop culture. I had no idea when I did that Nori video really who Pharrell was, because remember he was new at that time, and I want to say that was Nori's first and biggest hit. I think Nori had a hit song, but I don't know
it was
about
that
the
Super
analytics
Thug thing, right?
What'd you say?
Super Thug or something?
I think the Super Thug is what got him on, but I think that was one of Pharrell's first big hits, and I know it was one of Nori's biggest hits. Shout out to Nori and the Drink Champs and all that. But homeboy, I came to party. Your girl looking at me. I mean, that was, it didn't get no bigger at that time. I had no idea that video was gonna make me famous, even more famous. Peaches, Tatalicious. Tatalicious, man. That's how I met Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan came up to me in a club in Chicago. I was out there for Antoine Walker's Celebrity Weekend. Shout out to Antoine Walker, one of the coldest basketball players ever, straight out of Chi. Chicago, and he used to have some huge celebrity weekends that were off the chain. Michael Jordan, Pippen, everybody would show up to these dudes' parties, and it just happened to be the year that song was so huge. It didn't get no bigger than that song. By me being in that video, I was on MTV every day. I was on BET every day, Rap City, everything, because the video ran so much. It was like you were seeing me as much as you were seeing the rapper. Michael Jordan came up to me in VIP, was like, Tata Lalicious. Tata Lalicious, man. I was like, I can't. I must be famous. People know me. So yeah, crazy, man. I got stories, bro. True Hollywood stories.
You was on a few episodes of Martin. How was that like being on set for that?
It was great, man. Every time I was around Martin, whether it was Def Comedy Jam or being on the set of that show, it was just literally, I was like a little sponge, bro. I just knew this is what I want to be in. This is what I want to be around. And this is going to be my life. You know what I mean? When I saw the success these dudes had, when I see the cars they were pulling up in, when I saw the money they were getting, when I saw the type of women they were around, the fame, I was like, I want this. And it was a cool thing to be respected and known by them, because it was kind of a sense of, I must be doing the right thing. You know what I mean? To be around Eddie Murphy, to be around Sinbad, to be around Will Smith, to be around Robert Thompson, to be around Arsenio, all the cats that I grew up watching, hey man, you hear this same talk from dudes that are pro athletes. They just know, hey man, if I was a hooper, I wanted to be around hoopers all day. I learned from working out and playing with some of the greatest basketball players of all time, and that made me who I was. It's kind of like the same thing in our world. It's stand-up comedy in Black Hollywood.
Yeah, I know you had to be inspired by seeing all that. But I do want to ask you, your personal opinion, what show is better, Martin or Fresh Prince?
Well, obviously, I picked Fresh Prince because I was writing on it and I was a part of it. A lot of it was my work. But just so people know, too, so it's very clear. Because there's a lot of people don't know this. I get this question on golf courses. So you're the one that wrote The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? No, I'm not by myself. Every TV show you have ever seen in the history of TV, there is a team of writers. It's usually like 8 to 9 writers. So I was never by myself. It'd be like, Michael Jordan can't say he won by himself. No, he played in a team sport. Kobe, rest in peace, played in a team sport. You know what I mean? This ain't golf. You don't do it by yourself. You know what I mean? So there was some incredible writers, and I learned from all of them. You know what I mean? But when it comes down to that question, obviously, Fresh Prince, because I was closer to Will. I was around him every day, and I wrote for him. So, but I loved Martin to death. One of the funniest dudes. It's just kind of like if you ask me a hip hop question. Who do you think was better, Biggie or Pac? Okay, I was a West Coast dude, so obviously, Pac was more near and dear to me, but I loved Biggie also. Biggie was incredible. Biggie goes down as one of the greatest rappers, spitters of all time, creativity, everything. It's a preference thing. You get what I'm saying? So Martin was funny as hell. Martin, there's no way around it, but just to say, Martin was a real funny nigga. And whereas Will, way more universal. Way more white people liked Will than Martin. It's not a bad thing. It's just, it is what it is. When we got our ratings, every week, we would usually get our ratings every Tuesday, right? So you would see why Will's ratings were so huge. And I'm just being real. I'm just being honest. So people don't think I'm talking out the side of my neck. I was there, right? You would see how Martin had the super high ratings in all the black cities. It is what it is. That's like, we love Charlie Wilson. White people like Elvis. You get what I'm saying? There's certain, there's culture differences, right? So when you looked at Martin's ratings, incredible numbers in all the black cities because he was a real nigga, right? Will had high ratings places you wouldn't even think black people exist. Remember, it was NBC, there was Fox. NBC is as big as it got, meaning we're getting numbers in Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Rhode Island. There's black people that live in Wyoming. There's black people that live in South Dakota. No, that was white people watching. In other words, our show was much more universal, whereas Martin was geared towards the black people. But ain't nothing wrong with that because guess what? That's what Def Comedy Jam was for us, right? That was black comedians. That those of us that weren't able to get on the white shows. So I never knock how our culture got us to where I was or where we all are. I was just answering your question from somebody that was there. You get what I'm saying? It's a difference. Some guys are universal. Some guys are local. Some people the whole world likes. Some people just black people like. Just like if you take Seinfeld. I happen to be a black dude that liked him, right? Because I had that ear for white humor also. But the average Negro in America wasn't watching. If you ask him, would you like Seinfeld or Martin better? Like Seinfeld. But then ask the average lily white guy. He'd be like, I heard of Martin, but he didn't watch Martin the way he watched Frasier in Tool Time, Home Improvement. Just different cultures. That's all. It's not a bad thing. It is what it is. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Gotta ask you, Tupac. You brought him up earlier. What was your relationship with Pac?
Oh, no, of course. Pac was cool. Rest in peace. He just really took a liking to me because during those years, that would be 90, 91, 92, when he was just starting to bubble after Juice. Juice was in those years, right? The biggest night in Hollywood in LA was amateur night at the Comedy Stores on Monday nights. All the stars, everybody had to be there. It was just, everybody wanted to see who this new generation of comics. Like, put it this way, amateur nights at the Comedy Store was the biggest night in black comedy in LA those years. And he really took a liking to Chris Tucker. But I was always with Chris Tucker. I was either going on right before Chris Tucker, right after Chris Tucker. But I got famous in the most unorthodox way. This is going to trip you out. And I didn't even bring it up to you, but now I didn't know you were going to ask me this question. So now you about to get some more gems. So in 91, I went on my first audition. I'm like, I'm going to really do this comedy, acting, Hollywood thing. And it's right before I got Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So one of the reasons Will liked me, not only did he go, you were funny and you were amateur, the dude knew who I was. And I didn't even have 3 minutes on stage. I had no TV credits, but I had one credit. And it has happened to be the one and first and only audition that I ever went on, I got. And it turned out it was huge. It was a McDonald's commercial that ran for 7 years. Commercials don't run 7 years anymore. Commercials now about 13 weeks, and then the company does another commercial. Put it this way, my McDonald's commercial ran 7 Super Bowls. So I was an amateur comedian, didn't even have 3 minutes of jokes, but people knew who I was. That's the dude from the Calvin commercial. Calvin, the manager at McDonald's. Dave Chappelle went on years later and did skits and sketches. It was one of the biggest commercials at that time in our young hip hop generation. You could Google it. You see, it was the Calvin commercial. But long story short, one night, Tupac comes up to me and Chris Tucker's like, now I know why I know this nigga. You in the McDonald's commercial. Calvin, you got the job. He's like, did Calvin get that job? And he would never let me live it down. He'd be like, yo, can I get a job? He's like, well, you got some Mickey D's on you? Like that was Tupac's ongoing joke with me. It felt like it was every Monday. But in the midst of him already knowing who I was, he would see me do my little 3-4 minutes every Monday night. You would think we were stars already. It was just so many women and so many stars showing up to open mic night at the Comedy Store in Hollywood. I'm talking, I remember one night Death Row almost got in a fight with Vin and Tretch and them from Naughty by Nature. That's how far back that was. This was before Pac was with Death Row. You know what I mean? But when he found out that I started writing on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, now I'm an amateur comedian with no TV or movie credits, but he knows me from the McDonald's commercial, and he saw me himself having people dying laughing at the Comedy Store every Monday. He found out I was a writer. Then his new thing, he stopped talking about uh, the McDonald's commercial. He would just come up to me and go, write me some jokes, Alex. I'm funny too, nigga. I'm funny. I swear to you, I'm funny. Chris, tell this nigga I'm funny. Like, because he was already becoming friends with Chris Tucker, but he knew me as the little funny nigga from the McDonald's commercial, and now I'd be writing for Will Smith and them. And that was like the only credits I had. So that was my extent with Pac, always asking me to write jokes for him. And one thing that Suge and them used to say back in the day, they used to always joke with me and say, hey man, if there was Death Row Comedy, you would have been the first on that motherfucker, AT. You know, Suge would just always call me AT. You'd be the first one on Death Row Comedy. It never happened, but yeah. So yeah, I got some history, bro.
Was you there when that shooting happened in Vegas?
I almost went with Sean and Marlon Wayans. I remember we taped that the night before, and they were hopping in the car to roll to Vegas. And I almost went with them, but I didn't go. I stayed home and had a little fight party in my little apartment, but I was not there that fateful night, man. Could have easily been there, but I didn't go.
A Living Color. If I'm not mistaken, you was on that show, right? With J Lo and Rosie Perez.
In a minute, you're gonna be asking me what color diapers was I wearing? Did you have Crip diapers or were you in blood diapers? I mean, was you cripping us? Was you Suwu? Yes, I actually. I tell you, I have a wild and crazy story, man. Like now that we're going backwards, yes, I was Rosie Perez's assistant to the Fly Girls those first years of In Living Color, and that's how I originally met Keenan Ivory Wayans and Damon Wayans. Before I ever told a joke professionally, I was just a silly dude that was a dancer. And when I say dancer, I always got to be specific, because you say dancer nowadays, were you on the pole? Were you doing splits? Was you twerking? No. Break dancing, pop locking, real LA shit. And 15 to 20 years old, I was a local star. I was a local legend by the time I was 20, because I'd already been on Soul Train for 5 years. And it didn't get any bigger than Soul Train those years. You got to think about it. That's before BET. That's before MTV. Whether you were Michael Jackson, The Whispers, Stevie Wonder, Tony, or LL Cool J, you had to go on Soul Train. You get what I'm saying? It didn't get, ask your mama and your aunties about Soul Train. So basically, I was a little hood star. I was on TV every week. I was the little dude. Put it this way. When I started doing comedy, 91, I had people like Tony, MC Hammer, Dr. Dre, Easy E, LL Cool J going, oh, the little dancer nigga do comedy now? The dancer dude? The little nigga be in all the videos? He do stand up now? So they knew me as the little dude that was a dancer. Going down the line every week, Rosie Perez. Rosie was a superstar. You understand? It didn't get any bigger as far as dancing and Rosie Perez. In fact, shout out to Rosie Perez, because she had a lot to do with the beginning of my career. And we were just real close friends, and she just kind of strung me along as her little homie. So that's how that happened.
Did you ever think that Jennifer Lopez, she'll be as big as she is right now?
No, I mean, she was just another one of the dancers on the squad to me. I just saw her every day. I knew 2 or 3 other chicks that were Fly Girls that were way hotter than her. She was real cool, but I didn't look at it like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the reason why I asked. Because a lot of people feel like, she don't got no talent. She can't act. She can't dance.
Well, her case, J-Lo is a good example of how the system and how you can be manufactured into being a star. I'm not hating. For the people that, he just know that is the truth. Some people are super talented and can't catch a break. sing in they sleep, perform out of this world, but can't catch a break. And then you get somebody with no talent that gets all the breaks in the world. Fall right into a lane. Hey, there's never been you're going to be a Latina pop star. You got a big booty. You're with rappers. You're from New York. You got a look. We're going to put some producers back. We're going to get you a stylist. We're going to make it, man. They manufactured the hell out of J-Lo. But she ran with it. I'm not mad at her. She ran with it and it was successful for her. But I was just stating facts. That's nobody would disagree with that. But obviously her fans would probably disagree with me. But those of us that know, no. Shout out to her for pulling it off. And she was smart. She pulled a Mariah Carey. For her, but Mariah is actually really, really talented. But for her generation, she's like, I'm going to throw a rapper on all my songs. And that little formula worked out. That formula worked out. It was almost like she was there to sing the hook. You know what I'm saying? And be sexy and be cute and get all the credit. And she blew the hell up. You never see J-Lo sing a ballad. You know, you get what I'm saying? And again, not mad at it. It's just the truth. She's not Aretha Franklin. She's not Patti LaBelle. She wasn't even Celine Dion. You know what I'm saying? Just being honest. She got manufactured into being a global superstar. You know what I'm saying? So.
International Players Anthem. How was that like shooting that video with Outkast and UGK?
You really know everything about me. That is crazy. That was fun, man. Again, back to me being parts of classics, little bits and pieces of this hip hop gumbo that Alex Thomas said had something to do with. Man, that UGK, that Players Anthem was huge, man. I even forgot who called me that. I think Anissa Williams. Shout out to Anissa Williams, who happens to be one of the dopest casting directors in our culture. Black girl out of Long Beach. She's casted some of the greatest things that you probably never even knew she was behind it. I think she called me that day and wanted me to just do a cameo. And all she said was UGK and Outkast are shooting a video. And they got a little cameo for you in it. I pull up, again, no clue that was going to be a hip hop national anthem. You know what I mean? And at that time, you know, I'm an LA dude. I didn't realize the magnitude of Rest in Peace, Bun B and Pimp C. Because you know, I'm not a Texas dude. I didn't realize how huge they were. You know what I mean? But I found out that day, and we all became cool. And ever since that day, I was a Pimp C and UGK fan. I already was an Outkast fan from day one, and I was always cool with Andre 3000 and Big Boy. Shout out to them. They were always one of the coldest to ever do it. So, yeah, man. I've dipped and dabbled. Like I say, at one time I was a male video vixen. You know, shout out to all the dudes that came after me, you know, Kevin Hart and Lil Duval and Shawty and all the dudes that were in videos. But I was kind of like that dude, kind of like before all them dudes. You know what I'm saying? I was in everything. So.
And you was in a Blame It video too, right? Jamie Foxx?
Damn. I was in that Blame It video. I forgot all about Blame It on the alcohol. That was just fun. Like I said, Jamie is my brother. And anything he ever had anything to do, I was going to pull up. You know what I mean? But to be honest with you, anybody that's ever partied with Jamie Foxx, that video was just an extension of how his parties were. When I tell you lit, off the chain, some of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life, oh my God. Jamie Foxx parties, off the chain. That's all I got to say.
How was Eazy-E? I know you was in some of his videos, right?
Easy was a cool ass dude, man. I'll never forget my Eazy-E story. Me and my dad were walking through the Del Amo Mall in 1988, and we were Christmas shopping for my brothers and my mom. And Eazy-E, come on, that's NWA years. They bigger than life. My dad and Eazy-E just walked me. What's up, Alex? What you doing in this motherfucker? My father was like, how the hell do you know Easy E? Easy was like, oh, he was just in my video a couple of weeks ago. And da-da-da. Easy knew me as the dancer. I don't know if you remember, we want Easy. We want Easy. I was in that video. I was a flat top wearing dancer. He just knew me as the nigga from Soul Train. See, a lot of people don't realize in LA, let's just say 85 to 90, the real boys in the hood years, they didn't realize there was dudes like me. I had a crew of dudes that, yeah, when you saw NWA, you saw movies like, Menace to Society, you saw Boys in the Hood. If you didn't live in LA, you kind of thought it was just khakis, Chuck Taylors, white t-shirts, Jerry curls. That's what Crips and Bloods dressed like. If you didn't live here, you didn't know that. I was never that. I was always the dude, the hood was like, what is this on? But all my cousins were, the family were. Like I said, I have family members of Crips and Bloods. I loved them all. That just wasn't my style. I was a flat top. I had a flat top. I was wearing tapered khakis, and I was wearing button-ups. I was already on some international as a young black dude. You get what I'm saying? When dudes only were hanging in the hood, you gotta think about it. Go back to my history. I was the only black guy in an all-white private school. I I was hanging out in Beverly Hills. I was hanging out in Westchester. I was hanging out in Santa Monica. I was hanging out in the Valley. I was messing with white girls, Hispanic girls, Latina. I always had a little mixture. But I went back to the hood also. I just had a plethora of kind of like my background and my crew. It wasn't just the hood. You know what I mean? I'm that dude, I'll pull up to your barbecue, but I might be hanging out with a white chick having some sushi in Santa Monica that night. You know what I mean? But at a young age, when in LA, it was either you a gangbanger or you're something else. I just was never into that life. I never had a 6'4". You know what I mean? I wasn't hitting switches. All my cousins were. Still went to my cousin's house and lived on Crenshaw. I was still in Long Beach, Compton, Torrance, Inglewood, everywhere else. That just wasn't my life. You get what I'm saying? So.
Alex Thomas, man. Great interview, man. Great interview. I can honestly say, man, this is one of my favorite interviews.
Thank you, man. First of all, I appreciate that because I know that you talk to a whole lot of people, man. So coming from you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. I mean, the stories you was telling me, man, was incredible, man. You had me tapped in the whole time, man. But before we end it, man,
Yeah.
let the people know what you got going on. And I like that hat, man. That
Yeah.
hat, that's dope as hell, yo. That's your brand?
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it. You see that? It says Los Angeles Golfers. That is my clothing line. I don't know if you can zoom in on that or if you see it. South Central Country Club. That's just one of our hats. I see your cameraman zooming in. That's just one of our new hats. Corduroy. And then you see on the back, South Central Country Club. Just so you know. Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Just so you know, I'm a huge golfer. I've been golfing 30 years. They call me the ghetto Tiger Woods. They call me Inglewoods. And I started South Central Country Club about a year and a half ago, and it's taken off like crazy. It's kind of like me speaking it into existence. Because the first thing people ask is, well, South Central Country Club, I've never played there. And I'm like, neither have I. I just spoke it into existence because where I'm from, there's never been a country club and there's a lot of negativity, that's come out when you say South Central Country Club. And that bothered me for a lot of years. And it's like, I want people to know not everything and everybody that came out of South Central Country Club has a negative connotation to it. It's a beautiful place. There's beautiful people that came out of there. And I just happen to be a golfer, and it's taking off like crazy. I've always been a fly dude. You can go to southcentralcountryclub.com. That's southcentralcountryclub.com. And on Instagram, same thing, at South Central Country Club. And even if you're not a golfer, you can get fly. We always say, at South Central Country Club, we stay fly on and off the golf course. You feel me? So it's not on this particular hat, but my logo is a gold ball in a gold tee. A lot of people don't know that African Americans have a very rich history in the game of golf. Outside of Tiger Woods being the greatest of all time, the GOAT, and it's incredible for what he did, bringing the awareness to this sport. But you got shout out to Eastside Golf. They're a black-owned golf line. You got people like myself, South Central Country Club. Now you're starting to see, these brands in the mainstream. Now you're starting to see it in golf shops. Now you're starting to see it in airports. And, it just shows we got some fly stuff also. So if you're a golfer, you're looking for some variety, you're looking for some fly stuff, SouthCentralCountryClub.com. Yeah, man. And just grinding, man, staying busy, being a daddy. Got a few shows that I'm pitching right now, trying to create a few new shows. And if you're into animation, you can check out my animated series on Netflix right now as we speak. It's called Motown Magic. It's the whole history of Motown. Smokey Robinson is the executive producer. It's an incredible show, not just because I'm one of the stars, but we're number one in America right now for Black children between 1 and 10 years old. It's very educational. Anybody that's, Black and 40 and older, they all know about Motown, right? The two biggest catalogs in music history is the Beatles and Motown. So every single episode is a Motown song. And my character name is Jimmy Mack. I'm a red convertible 1965 Cadillac. And when you go on Netflix or you Google Motown Magic, you're going to see a red convertible 1965 Cadillac. I feel like you're looking at it right now. That's me. It's a great show, though. But yeah, if you got nieces, nephews, grandkids, check out Motown Magic. And follow me on Instagram, Funny Man Alex Thomas. I actually have 3 Instagrams. Funny Man Alex Thomas. That's me, the actor, comedian, the father, the daddy, the silly dude. And then there's my golf page, me golfing all around the world, doing what I do. I specialize, Art, in having fun on golf courses. So remember I told you I'm the ghetto Tiger Woods. They call me Ingle Woods. So my Instagram is I'm Ingle Woods. I
So
am.
you pretty good at golfing then.
Oh, I play. I'm a 12 handicap. Anybody knows golf knows that's decent for a comedian. So go to I'm Inglewoods, IMGLEWOODS. I'm Inglewoods. That's my social media for my golf page. And then, of course, South Central Country Club.